Welcome back to another episode of Traffic Light Takeaways. I think this is episode 4, episode 5, something like that. And since we actually had a decent start time with the game, I can make the video on the same day as the game. Last game that just took place, most recent game was Colorado versus Iowa State, back at Folsom Field after a week off, and that crowd was electric, man. This is now my third season working for Colorado, working with the Pregame network, and that is the most electric I've seen Folsom Field throughout all 4 quarters. That place was loud, man. If you've never been to a game out there, you have to. That needs to be something on your bucket list. But anyways, Colorado versus Iowa State, phenomenal game on all sides of the ball. There were some things left to be desired from the special team standpoint. I feel like a lot of the times when we would go out to punt the ball, Damon Greaves would almost die. But yeah, defensively, offensively, the game was phenomenal. They stayed locked in throughout all 4 quarters, something that has been a theme for this team, not just this year, but really throughout the Coach Prime era, was consistent play throughout the entire game. You know, they start the game out on a high and then kind of dip. And so traffic light takeaways, there are 3 takeaways: red light, yellow light, green light. So we're going to start with green light. And I think that the green light takeaway, meaning the most obvious takeaway, the most important takeaway in my opinion, was this was like the second coming of Caden Salter. It felt like the first one was during Wyoming, you know, after the quarterback fiasco, the quarterback benching. Then Caden Salter goes home against Wyoming and balls out. That felt like, you know, the first like Caden Salter's here moment. Then, you know, we've obviously seen how the last couple weeks have played out. But again, this week it was just a phenomenal game from Caden on both sides of the ball. It was a phenomenal game from Caden. Finished the game with 64% completion percentage, 255 yards, 2 touchdowns, long of 70, which was that beautiful blown coverage play to Omarion Miller, who is stacking good performances, man. BYU was kind of like his breakout game for the season, in my opinion. And then TCU, obviously, he had some good plays there, caught a touchdown there. Yeah, Omarion Miller, great game. But I think for the green light, I want to talk about Caden Salter, and obviously he had a great performance, but I kind of want to combine Caden Salter's performance with Pat Shurmur's performance too. I feel like something that has been screamed from the mountaintop since Georgia Tech, since the beginning of the season, on, you know, as far as the Colorado Buffaloes discourse has been, was that Caden Salter and Pat Shurmur need to go. People didn't like the product that those two, you know, were putting on the field, but I was never somebody that subscribed to that type of thinking, because I will never be a person who thinks they know what to do better than a coach and a player who has dedicated their entire life to the sport and to the performance. Them as a tandem, Shurmur calling the plays and Caden executing the plays, was just phenomenal. Something that Caden, I feel like, has been inconsistent on throughout the year was knowing when to tuck the ball and run versus when to throw on the run. But I think today he did a phenomenal job of tucking the ball. There were multiple, whether it was a designed option or the play broke down, Caden did a phenomenal job with his legs. Rushing, he had 57 yards. He averaged 6.3 yards every time that he did cross the line of scrimmage with the ball. But the thing that really stands out to me, and obviously it does, was the last play of the game, or I guess the deciding play of the game, the Joseph Williams 37-yard reception. That was a call that I don't think I've seen Pat Shurmur make all year, meaning the situation was 3rd and 17. I believe we're on our side of the field, and I was fully anticipating for the game to go like, okay, it's 3rd and 17, we're just going to run the ball, maybe get a first down. But if we don't get a first down, then Iowa State will burn their last timeout, since they only had one timeout left in that situation. But they're going to run the ball, Iowa State's going to burn their timeout, and we're just going to trust the defense to execute and win the game. But I love the call from Pat Shurmur to send Joseph Williams out on I think it was a post route, and obviously Salter's execution on that throw was beautiful. So I think those two, Salter and Shurmur, did a great job, you know, working together. I think what's reading the yellow light was Quentin Gibson and his performance. Coach Prime has been noted saying that he wants to get Quentin more involved throughout the offense, because I mean, he's a guy that can obviously be like we saw today, he can be an impact player off rip, even though he's a true freshman. And I just think he's a fun watch. It's always fun to just watch smaller guys who can zip through defenses with utmost ease. And also he can take hits. But yeah, I think Quentin Gibson had an amazing game. It's been a rarity this season, but he was able to actually return kicks. Iowa State was kicking the ball to him and not allowing it to hit the end zone. And he showed great promise during those kick returns. I mean, there are times where, he's running towards the field, towards the middle of the field, and one area of the field starts to get congested. So with his speed, with his cutback ability, he can shift to the left or to the right, and all of a sudden he gets 15 extra yards out of his return. Yeah, I think Quentin Gibson had a good wake-up game. I feel like with this performance, people are going to continue to recognize him. The staff, the coaching staff, the offensive coaching staff is going to continue to, design plays for him, give him more opportunities in the passing game. Quentin Gibson is somebody who, for the next 2 years after this, is just going to be somebody who can make a true impact on this team. And I think what's at the red light, which is something that is just something that flies under the radar about this game, I think it's our defensive edge presence and our defensive edge depth. They have 4 or 5 guys that they can trust on the edge, whether they need to stop a run, whether they need to pressure the quarterback or just get a sack. The defensive line and the defensive edges have really stepped up their game compared to the previous games of the season, which is why I think it is under the radar, because obviously the first people you want to blame for performances like we had earlier in the year when people were rushing for 250 plus yards on us every week, you want to blame the inside guys on the defense. You want to blame the nose tackles and the edges. But I think with Alex McPherson, London Merritt, those true freshmen, and then you have Tristan, I think you say Moreau. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He's French, so it's not just Maurice or however it's spelled. But yeah, you have him, and then obviously Keaton Wade, Arden Walker. Those are all guys who have their own strengths, and I think that the coaches are doing a great job of providing situations where their strengths can shine. So yeah, it was just a great game all around. Wrapping up here, this was the game that Colorado really needed. The last 2 games where Colorado goes up 14-0 at the beginning of the game, but then just completely dwindles throughout the rest of the game. I think that showed, obviously, I think it showed complacency and, just like not a sense of urgency. But I think with how tight this game was throughout it all, I believe that because, the game was so tight, we saw what the team really looks like as a team. We saw what the camaraderie and the brotherhood of this team can look like, going forward. George Hegeman, one of the assistant offensive line coaches, had a speech at the beginning of the week. He was like, "Hey guys, we got to step it up. Would you rather be 2-5 or 3-4? The season is dependent on us, and we obviously have the talent to execute plays and get wins, and we saw that tonight. Saw that today. So yeah, those are my takeaways. Phenomenal game. Heading into our bye weeks, love to have this momentum heading into our bye week. Going to Utah after the bye week, I believe, which is going to be a tough game, but I have full confidence that we can get it done. See y'all in 2 weeks, I guess.
Where y'all from?
We up from Miami, Florida.
All the way from Miami.
All the way from Miami.
Appreciate y'all coming, man.
Hey, man, we love what you guys are doing, man. We want to support you in every way.
Appreciate your family.
And we're recruiting at home. Everything we see at home, we bring it this way.
My man.
Thank you.
You gotta believe. Dude, we've been believing since day one,
That's
dog.
why I gave them to
Remember
you.
back in Jackson State? We've been believing with you in the pregame show.